What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Skyline Chronicles. What's up, guys? All right, let's jump into this. On my previous video, I mentioned that the RB25 GK clutch fan was making a lot of noise and a lot of wind noise. And I have a brand new 300ZX pulley that connects to that. So today I'm going to be removing the clutch fan. I'm going to remove this upper intercooler piping, and I'm going to replace this cam cover. I have a new carbon fiber one. So I have a whole new Spall fan setup. So I'm going to walk you through doing that and all the parts that I have. And hopefully it's a little quieter and works just as good. Because the clutch fan works good on it. It doesn't get hot whatsoever. It's perfect. But it just makes a lot of noise and takes up a lot of room. So I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling this stuff. And I'll show you what I got for the E-fan setup. Before I start wrenching, I'm just going to show you exactly what I'm taking off. So this is coming off. The cam angle sensor is coming off. This top upper intercooler piping hose is coming off. Along with this bracket right here that I have custom made. And the fan and the pulley is coming off. And for the parts that I have, kind of a mess over here. But this is the sensor. It triggers on at, I believe, 175. Maybe it was 180. And then I might use this for the battery terminal, or I might just go into the fuse. Got a bunch of inline fuses. Have some wires with the relay. Bunch of extra connectors. I got more connectors. And I have these zip tie strap things that hold the fan together. And lastly, the Spall fan, 12-incher. I have this same one in the S13, and I love it. It's loud, but not as loud as a clutch fan. And it works really good. Even though removing the cam cover and the cam angle sensor isn't part to do with the E-fan or anything to do with that, I just have this top pipe off, and I have a brand new carbon fiber piece, which I'll show you in 1 second. So I'm going to pop that on because the tube is already off, so I have full access to that. So I might as well do it while I'm in there. Make my life a little bit easier in the future. This one's a little bit beat up, you know, it's dent there, scuff there. If I had more time, I actually wanted to make this cam angle sensor carbon fiber as well. I wanted to do the top face. But maybe I'll do that in the future, or I'll just spray it black real quick. But here's a new one. I bought this from the same company that at the same time I bought the wing. I'm finally getting around to installing this. So it's got to pop off 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the middle one. And then 3 on the cam angle sensor. And I'll plug the harness. And then this should just go right on. For anyone that has or hasn't removed the cam angle sensor on the RB25, probably the same on the 26 and the 20. It's kind of hard to see it, but there's two crescent sides of a notch. So you got a smaller one and a bigger one. When you install this, you have to make sure those two are lined up on the correct side. And when you press in the cam angle sensor, the shaft tends to turn, so you can't really get it lined up. Sometimes you'll get it one shot, sometimes it'll take 5 or 6 tries. Just depends how lucky you are that day. But for anybody that knows, that one's kind of a struggle. So I'll have to line that back up after. So we have the original timing cover off. Quick look at the belt to make sure it's holding up. It's looking pretty good. Nothing out of the ordinary. No weird wear. So that's good so far. So unfortunately, this piece is not going to go on today, or probably for a while. So maybe this one isn't made for a Neo, because this one's an RB25 Neo. And this left cam, the intake cam, the nose sticks out quite a bit. And this thing's not deep enough. The nose actually hits before this even seats. So that piece right there, it's sticking out, that nose, is hitting right in the inside. And all the bolt holes are a little bit off. So I would have to cut this whole front circle off and remount every single hole, and maybe it would fit. Definitely going to leave that aside and make that a project for a different day. Or maybe I'll sell it for a non-Neo. Or maybe I'll just put it on the 240 or something. But yeah, that kind of sucks. So I have to put the original one back on and save this one for a different day. Well, anyways, back to the wiring the fan up. Damn, I'm so sad. It looks so good, but it doesn't fit at all. So, put the original one back on. That's all buttoned back up. Cam angle sensor went on second try, pretty easy. I got lucky on that one. I'll have to make sure it's in when I start it. But I don't think it would actually even go in if it wasn't lined up. So back to the fan. My original thought was using this 1/8 MPT port for the coolant temperature sensor, which is this guy right here. And I wanted to screw that in and have it angled down that way. But upon further thought, I'm thinking the pressure is not going to send the coolant through that port into this angle, up to this one, up to that one, and then finally hit the sensor at the correct temperature at the correct time. So I just think there's like a lot of room for error there. So I'm going to junk this whole setup, and I'm going to remove that one down there, because that was supposed to be for a OEM fan, but I think that one's for R33 only, because there's nothing on this chassis that connects to that green plug. So I'm going to disconnect that one after I jack the car up. Hopefully I don't lose a whole lot of coolant. And then I'm going to go ahead and screw this one into this one. Have some Teflon tape there, and screw that into the bottom of the radiator. Hopefully that goes smooth and I don't lose a lot of coolant. But I think that's the best and most effective way to go about this sensor. Here we have a dual fan wiring diagram for the relay. I'm actually only going to be using one fan for this. So I pretty much split everything in half. So there's a quick overlook on that. I won't be needing the switch, because this is going to act as a switch. I haven't messed with one of these in a while. I was doing a little bit of work off camera. First thing I did is I tested the E-fan to make sure it worked. So I just did one positive, one negative straight to the battery. It fired right up, so I wanted to see what direction it was going. So that was good. And then the second thing is I went to put the 3/8 sensor, is a smaller one. I went to put that in the radiator, and it's actually not the correct size. So I went on Google and asked a couple people, and it seems like the sensor at the bottom, it looks really big, but someone said it's a M16. So I have to order a M16 adapter to a 3/8 for the sensor to plug in. So I had to order that one, so I couldn't finish doing what I got to do down there. And I can't install the fan into the radiator because I need to get my hand down there to get to the sensor. It just is easier than going from the bottom. But right now I have this weird contraption all rigged up. I got the relay, I got the positive wire, and I have the white signal wire. And then I have the ground that's going to the fan. And then I have the ground coming from the relay. So the relay and the fan both need a ground. So I have them both just up there for now. Maybe I'll keep it there. Maybe I'll locate it down here a little lower. So that's what I got going on there. And basically, the red is going to go to the positive of the battery or positive for either a fuse. You could do that. And then the white is going to connect to the sensor. And once the sensor hits the appropriate temperature, it's going to close. I believe it closes or opens. Probably closes. And then it's going to make that connection, which is going to send a full signal from the power to the red wire through the relay all the way through there to the sensor. And then it's going to make a complete circuit. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to plug the white wire into the sensor, and I'm going to apply the red one into the battery. I'm going to get a cup of hot water, and I'm going to drop it in there and see what happens and see if it fires up. I had to take a little bit of an intermission. I had to order a few little parts. The piece I ordered was very similar to this. It was to adapt the 3/8 sensor into the port for the radiator. I have it installed right down there. So it's an adapter to the 3/8 sensor. And then I also had to ground out the radiator to make a full circuit, which I have ground out right there in that bracket to the bottom of the radiator here. So next step I'm doing is I'm going to wire the fan back up, add some coolant to the radiator, and see if it reaches optimal temperature, and see if that fan kicks on. I just started her up. I got the coolant filter or the funnel there. I started it up the first time and I didn't have this top hose connected, and it was idling wicked bad, wicked funny, and it was smoking. So I turned it off, put that pipe back on just a little bit, just so it runs a little bit better. I had like crazy misfire without that. And then I have all my wiring set up with the inline fuse, with the relay. I just grounded it here just for now, just to make sure it works. And I got my sensor plugged in. The way the sensor works is once it gets a temperature, there's a spring in there. Once it collapses, it makes a ground connection, and then it completes the circuit. So we'll see if this works. And I'm trying to bleed it at the same time. So I think once it hits like 180, 185 degrees, it should kick on. And we'll find out. But it's already a lot quieter without the clutch fan. The clutch fan was super loud. I can hear the exhaust and you can hear the engine. Alright, let's just wait until that hits temperature. Hey, alright guys. So, two good things. This fan just fired up. So it must be at 185 degrees. It took a while. And without the clutch fan, this one actually turned on too. And this is the OEM one that's connected to the ECU. So that one turned on and that one turned on like seconds after. So we know this one works, and now we know this one's wired up. So we are good to fucking go. Hell yeah. Got two fans running. Alright, let me kill the engine. After I killed the engine, the main fan connected to the ECU immediately turned off. And this one kept running for about three or 4 minutes. So I had to unplug the battery terminal just to kill it. And it's pretty much time for me to go to work. So I'll have to tackle the rest of this tomorrow. But for the next step, this is all bled, so I got to pull that out. Actually hook the fan up to the radiator. Get that mounted. Get all the wires tucked. I have this white line connected to the power. And I actually have to add a inline fuse. Or I could tie them together. I'll see which one I want to do. Because that's getting direct power. That one's always hot. So I'll make sure there's a fuse on it. And then put this ground somewhere better. Maybe out of sight. If I can find a good spot, maybe in the battery terminal. I'm not sure where yet. But yeah, we're good. Looks like it fired up. So I'm just gotta get everything set and permanent. I'm trying to get this all back together for Saturday. Today's Tuesday. There's a Shift Culture car show up in Florida, or down in Florida. And it's supposed to be a pretty big car show, so I want to make sure I show up. All right, let me check back once I get everything situated and show you the final results. So I took a little pause in between the last video and this video. I had family down south and I had a car show to go to. So I pretty much buttoned everything up, but I didn't have any chance to record it. So I'm trying to think where I left off. I have the relay mounted to the strut tower. That's all set. I have everything wired. I tucked away the wires as best as I could. I've been using a lot of zip ties. I'm not really sure if there's something better or cleaner. I couldn't think of anything. That's all tied up there. I got the sensor down there. So I plugged the sensor in and wired everything up and started the car. And it ran good and the fans kicked on. But when I looked underneath the car, it was actually leaking. Because they tell you don't use any Teflon tape or any anything like this, because they'll prevent it from grounding. So I tried tightening it and it just kept leaking a little bit. So I ended up pulling it, putting this stuff on, and I fired the car up and it ran and the fan kicked on. But I went for a test drive and the fan didn't kick on. So I gotta see why the fan's not kicking on, or give it a little test run. I'm also thinking the engine bay got really hot and maybe the relay got hot and triggered it to come off. So I'll have to diagnose that. But besides that, it's pretty much all set. And we should be ready to go. I was gonna wrap up the video, but then I just realized I should do a after the clutch fan. So if you saw in any of my other videos, the clutch fan was pretty loud. It was making a lot of blowing noise. So I'll give it a few little revs without the clutch fan. So without the clutch fan, you can hear a lot more exhaust noise, you can hear more intake noise, and you can just hear the engine better overall. Because before, when you were revving it, it just hears loud whooshing noise, just a bunch of air moving. But gonna cross my fingers and hopefully the fan turns on. All right, that's all, folks.